So module 9 is social media for business communication. It's chapter 8 in your text. Let me take off my pencil. So our objective is to learn the evolution of communication, why social media is important to businesses, and how to utilize social media effectively. There are going to be a couple of weird things, I think, toward that your book talks about in this chapter that are a little bit confusing or conflated. And I'll try to make some sense of that um, as we get to it. But I just kind of want to throw that out there in the beginning. Okay. So let me just erase this because this is from the last class. So this is in your book, but I am going to spend some time kind of talking about it because there's a lot of information that's here. This is kind of the evolution of communication. I think back in the beginning of the semester, I showed you the picture, right, with the men, right, and it showed you, from the Stone Age to somebody using Twitter. Well, this is a different type of chart, and it's sort of doing some similarly, kind of showing you the evolution of communication, but it has some other details on it that I think are important. And so I'm going to talk about these things. So first, I want to draw your attention to this area right here, the industrial age. The industrial age is it's about command and control. So there's little communication between team and units, and I'm going to explain that in the diagram here. There's respect for position. Holding authority is power. Okay, so that's in the industrial age. And we can see down here that the industrial age was the mid 1700s to about 1985. And the values during the industrial age were efficiency, competitiveness, and authority. Okay, those were the key values: efficiency, competitiveness, and authority. So we can see that this particular individual is at the top of the pyramid, so to speak. And this person gives instructions, which is indicated by those arrows, right? But I'm going to start to draw in some other ways, and it's going to start to look similar to the diagram. You don't have communication happening between any of these people. So communication flows from the top down. That's the communication flow. That's how it flows. The top person says something, the other two people, they receive those instructions, and then they break it down to their subordinates, and then those people break it down to their subordinates, and it just goes down the chain, right? And there's little communication between teams or units. All right, little communication. Similarly, about 1975, 75, 80, well, 85 probably, 1980s, we start to emerge from the industrial age and we move into the information age. The information age, as you can see, is from 1970 to 225. So technically, we're still kind of in that age. There's mass two-way communication. So that's extensive communication between teams and units, right? There's respect for not just position, but now expertise. Oh, let me use a different color. Expertise. That means, specified knowledge, specific knowledge. They are an expert in this area. So it's not just position that grants you respect, it's your expertise in a particular subject matter that grants you the respect. And as you can see, the switch, not just holding authority is power, but knowledge is power. And you may have heard that, you know, that adage that knowledge is power.
Can I say something or ask you something?
Is it related to what we're talking about right now?
Of course, I'm not asking
Oh,
nothing.
okay. Okay. I'm just I'm just
No,
wanted to
no,
be
I wanted to. It's related to what you're saying, but it
yeah.
also connects to. Dag, what chapter was that? When we talked about interdependence and independence and collectivists and idealists. I mean, not
Uh-huh.
individualists.
I
Because
uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
some people, well, this is how I want to explain it. Let me see. Collectivists will not see people, do not agree with people who have expertise and knowledge because they want to see things their way.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
understand what I'm trying to say? I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I understand what you're trying to say. Okay. And I mean, so you're right in the sense that culture does play a part in this. Okay. But I'm not, but this is sort of just a societal sort of description as a society. Culture does play into this. Absolutely.
But also but don't it, like, you see, like certain things like this with an expertise or a person with knowledge or wisdom, to some
Hmm.
people they will seem to be a know-it-all. But if you do have expertise and knowledge in a certain situation, why would you, like, why would they consider it to be a know-it-all? If you know what you know, then you know what you know, right?
Oh, yes, yes. If you know, right, if you know what you know, then yes, you know it. I I'm not sure. Is so so culture plays a part in this. You're right, but this is sort of a description of society generally speaking. So we're not
Okay.
getting into the nuances of that interpersonal communication.
It's just weird
So
how the business classes do connect with the outside world and culture and stuff.
oh yeah, well, it's not weird. It should be
I,
connecting. It has to
okay.
connect. But you know what it is that a lot of times people are not discussing that because they either A, don't know, right? But what we're seeing is because of this, right? This is one of the reasons why the business classes are talking about this,
You get
right?
a
In
better
various ways.
understanding to the other worlds outside.
Well, then, but also too, remember now we're living in a what has been called a global society. So you are working with other people on the other side of the world. I mean, you know, if you order something online, you know, sometimes you don't know where it's coming from, right? Somebody processes that order that can be processed in India, and then it could be fulfilled in Maine, and then you get it at your doorstep on the Upper West Side or in Harlem or in the Bronx. But that order has just bounced all around the world. Sometimes suppliers are in other parts of the world, right? And so culture is important, but because we are a global society, we are constantly interacting with people who have a different way of operating and believing. But what this is talking about is information and the way that information is shared or communicated to others. So in the industrial age, and this is also too from a more US or Western perspective. Um, so not every country operates this way, but very Western and you know the United States and and other Western Euro countries tend to operate similarly. And there are definitely charts in your book from I think it's chapter 4 or 5, which talks about communicating across culture, which shows you countries that operate similarly based off of their similarities in terms of individualist or collectivist. But we're talking about right here how that information gets shared. So in the industrial age, that means from the mid 1700s to about 1985, holding authority was powerful, right? So there's some places in the world who operate this way and some that might still operate this way. But it's becoming increasingly difficult for them to stay that way. But now it's not just the authority, but it's also the knowledge. Because you could have power, but if you don't have knowledge, then your power may not necessarily be as useful.
Professor, so this phrase "knowledge is power" is more common to the individualistic or collectivist society.
It's not so much as that it's indicative of one or the other. That's not what it is. It's the
Uh-huh.
whole point of just saying that currently, in terms of where we are, knowledge is power, not authority.
Hmm. Yeah.
So somebody can be in a position, and that position grants them power. I can be president of a company, all right, um, and I can have power because I can tell people what to do. I can fire people,
But
et
that
cetera, et
doesn't mean it's
cetera.
gonna help. That doesn't mean everything will evolve according to your power.
Exactly. That's it. That's exactly right.
Okay.
So just because you have power doesn't necessarily mean you make a good business person. That's what happens when rich people don't train their children, and then they inherit the company. They run it into the ground. Why? Because they have power, but they never learned anything about it,
Which
right?
connects to so then that would be where entitlement come from. Like, right? Yeah, that's where entitlement comes
So
from.
you
Because you're not teaching them all around. You're not teaching them everything. You're only teaching them what you see fit to get the company going. But you need it all
well, entitlement is a little bit different.
to
Entitlement
evolve.
means no, entitlement has to do more or less with people feeling that they have a right to something,
That's
right?
what I
I
mean. Like,
could
say you leave, you see how you just said if they don't teach them, see, like, in other words, the child feels, oh, my dad is going to lead us to me. So all they need is the power. They don't need to know the knowledge behind all of it or how the dad got what they got. Or, I mean, family member, not, relative, friend, whatever.
Yeah,
That's
I
where I
mean,
say entitlement. I don't mean,
yeah,
yeah, that's where my
yeah,
entitlement comes from.
right. So, right. So, yes, I mean, sometimes people feel entitled to, or they feel they have a right to something by virtue of their relationship to someone, or just virtue of, whatever whatever the connection may be, or even some people feel entitled and they have no relationships, and that's fine. But the whole point of all I'm trying to say is that knowledge is power has been a rallying, has been something that's been said quite often, because people realize that power alone doesn't do it. It doesn't help to move people forward. And so what I'm trying to get you all to see is to recognize the shift or the evolution in communication. At one time, this was the way in which, generally speaking, I'm painting with a broad stroke, a broad brush, that this is the way that communication took place. But now we have been in the information age. And if you look down here, we're on our way out of the information age and the social age has begun. But now there's a shift in what is important. And now the key values are autonomy, innovation, and achievement, right? So, autonomy, being able to work on your own by yourself, innovation, being able to be creative and think outside the box. What are the ways that we can accomplish a goal or a task? Somebody needs to mute themselves.
Oh,
And
no,
then
I was
achievement.
gonna ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, is that the reason why now you see more people um open to the idea of being an entrepreneur as to working for under somebody because of the social age that we're in?
No, I wouldn't necessarily think that it's because of the social age. I think it's making it easier for. I think that things are technology, and perhaps certain aspects of business communication have enabled people to do more, become entrepreneurs. But I don't wouldn't say that that's the reason, so to speak. I think there are a number of things that are pushing people toward entrepreneurship. And there's pros and cons to entrepreneurship too. So it's, people think, oh, I'm gonna own my own business, and entrepreneurship is part of that. But what if I could digress for 2 seconds, what's really most important is passive income. That's just from the book of Joy. That's from the book of Dr. Harris. You want passive income because an entrepreneur, believe it or not, you still working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Just go ask the bodega guy who sits at the corner, who has a corner store. That's where he lives. That's his home, right? So yes, he's an entrepreneur. Yes, he's a business owner, but unless he got some employees who he then has to pay for and also have to make sure that they have time off and all that kind of stuff like that, it has to be there if they don't show up for work. He got to be at that store, or she has to be at that store, right? So entrepreneurship in and of itself is not necessarily coming from the social age. It is enabling people, though, to step into that, but a little bit easier, and to do that in addition to working a job. Okay, so the social age is facilitating people's entree into entrepreneurship, and it's not as challenging because they get to use the communication, the social media, and other aspects to be able to do those things. But it's still, I wouldn't say that it's just that alone. No, I wouldn't say that it's the social age just alone. So one of the things that I want to point out to you here is that you see in this picture, you have communication happening now between people. You didn't have that over here, right? You didn't have that over here. That was missing. Oh, yeah. Right, but now you have it here. So you have communication that's happening, and that's something to note. Okay, it's something to note. You have to be able to work independently as well as work with a group. And that's part of the reason why you all have worked in groups, as well as having activities that you do on your own. Because those are both skills that you need to constantly develop and hone. Okay? But as we can see right here, let me use a different color, right? We're overlapping with the social age. Social age, we've been in the social age, emerging out of the information age since about 2005, right? And we don't know when the social age will end, but let me just give you, hopefully not overwhelm you, but give you some concepts. If you look here, this is a couple of hundred years, 1800, 1900, 2000, right? This is almost 400 years. By contrast, right, 80, 90, 2000, 10, 20, this is about 50 years. All right. So just look at the contrast, right? We were in the industrial age for almost 400 years. We've been in the information age for almost 50 years. The social age began about 15 or so years ago, and we don't know how long we're going to be in it before the next quote unquote age begins, if there's another one. But let's look at here, networked communication. So that's very different from what we saw before. But now you see that you have communication in and between individuals everywhere, right? Right. And this is, this is about you finding your people, right? And connecting with those who have shared interests. That's why you have Facebook groups and you have special interest platforms that are geared toward people with specific interests. For example, I recently, I'm in this group on Facebook that looks at instructional design. The woman there who runs it, she puts on these webinars, and she has an instructional design academy, which costs several $1,000s. But I wanted to learn about instructional design because it's not that much different from what I've been doing. And it's a field that I know that in the corporate space will pay a whole lot more money. So I've been able to join and be a part of a group and learn about instructional design and learn about tools and things that I would have never learned about unless, let's say, for instance, I tried my hand at going back to school again, which I'm not trying to do. So that's why you have these Facebook groups and all these other kinds of groups on various online platforms. So now people can communicate and share information. So again, let's look at this. Let's look at the shift. It went from respect for expertise and position to respect for expertise and contributions to the network. What do you bring to the table? What do you contribute to the group that you're a part of? Are you somebody just hanging on to the coattails? Please mute yourself. Are you just hanging on to people's coattails? Or do you bring something to the group? What do you bring to the table? And so your respect is for your expertise and what you contribute to the network, to the group, right? And so you need to always know what you bring to the table. And it's not just, sort of your abstract skills. No, specifically, what do you bring to the table? I have a knowledge of curriculum design and instruction, or I have a knowledge of human development, or I have, be clear, know what you bring to the table. All right. Know what you bring to the table. And then sharing the knowledge is what is powerful. Sharing knowledge is power. So before it was about authority, before it was knowledge and power, but now you have to share it. That's what's powerful. We can all benefit from the resources that every person develops and creates. If we share all of our resources, we'll be doing so much better. The hoarding of resources, the keeping of resources for oneself or one particular group is not powerful. It's not beneficial. But when we share our resources, we empower one another. So in the social age, this is where we are right now. So look at that. Transparency, meaning clear about your motives, honesty, telling the truth, and camaraderie are key values. Those are the key values. So you can analyze this across, right, all of these different ways. You can see the change, the shift. First, it was efficiency, competitiveness, and authority. Then it went to autonomy, innovation, and achievement. And now it's transparency, honesty, and camaraderie. Okay, so this is where we are right now in terms of communication and it evolving in the workplace. This is in your book. So this is just the first, this is just the first slide. But this is really key. This is important for you to really grasp and see and understand the shift that society, that the world society even has gone through, and it's still taking place. All right, I just want to erase all that. All right. So the definition of the social age. It's an era in which people engage in networked communication, collaborate across boundaries, and solve problems communally. Okay, social age, an era in which people engage in networked communication, collaborate across boundaries, and solve problems communally. Sorry that the one looks a little fragile. Somebody was saying that they me writing on the screen. It's a little difficult to write on the screen, believe it or not. So, I'm sorry, I need to blow my nose. Hold on one.
While we on hold, did everybody go vote?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
I know I did.
Nobody early voted?
I did.
Cool. That's the professor?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Vote.
I went yesterday.
So who you voted for?
That's private information.
Well, be honest, we can't have that conversation right now.
No,
I'm just
Serena. No, honey. I don't understand why my earpods are giving me
The
such
lines are terribly long.
Professor, you don't believe in sharing politics, right?
No, that's not it. I do.
No,
I
was
just don't think.
asking.
Yeah, no, I do.
No, because some people are really adamant about not sharing certain things, like because they don't want, it's sometimes a huge argument when you get into politics.
Yeah.
I'm just making conversation while you fix the screen.
No. Yeah, there it is. Sorry. I don't know why my earpods are not working. They say they are. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, they're working. We hear you.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's okay, hold on, maybe this way. Okay. Hello?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, it's not connected. The pods are not connected. You just hear my voice from it's not connected for some reason. Let me try to turn it off and turn it back on. Hold on one second. Sorry.
Wow, one AirPod could have more one AirPod could be charged more than the other?
Yeah, if you use the other one.
I'm looking at the screen like.
Okay, now we're good. Yes. I think for some reason both the pod was connected to both the phone and the iPad. So that's crazy. But so I just turned off the Bluetooth on the phone and then had to close it and reconnect it. All right. Yeah, I believe in talking about politics. I just think we should get through this, and then y'all can go to town, go to town after. At this point, after having how many elections have I voted in? At this point, we're just choosing the lesser of the two evils. Concessions always have to be made. People are always making concessions. So yeah. Yep, we're just choosing the lesser of the two evils. But yeah, y'all, we can discuss that at the end. So in characteristics of the social age, we have, I'm sure if you say, for instance, look at your apps and they update them, that's why they'll have 1.0 or 1.45 and they number the updates. Well, the social age, they have Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. I think that we are well past that, but I'm not, like I said, I wouldn't consider myself a complete techie. I'm just sort of a little bit of a techie, somebody who's kind of self-taught. But Web 1.0 is probably definitely what we were dealing with in the information age. And that's the middle column. And so we were able to access web pages, or that was the beginning of us being able to access web pages, but we only could read them, right? They were static, they didn't change. That's like getting on and going to, I don't know, an encyclopedia reference, right? They're basically taking the book and putting it online, right? So you can sort of read it. It doesn't change. It's static. It stays the same. But Web 2.0 is very different, right? And as for us, especially now in the social age, you can read and write the web, right? And basically users are able to interact with the page. They can make content, or what they call author content. They can express opinions, and they can customize and edit the web content, among a myriad of other things. And as you can see that I've already written here, a lot of this happens in real time. Okay. So in other words, in the minute, in the moment of you using it, and that's why many of you, many of you are very, society has a problem with patience, right? Because we're so used to getting things right away. So think about it. Many of you, I'm sure, have a Facebook page. Go post something. It happens in real time. You turn around and you can go edit it, and you can edit it. The moment you post it, you can turn around and edit it, and it'll change across anybody who sees it, right, in real time. And so that's sort of what's happening. In real time, people are able to write and to do all sorts of things, and it's happening within seconds. Just take your phone. You send a text, even though depending on your network, depending on the weather, depending if you have a signal, right? Those are things that we all deal with. But generally speaking, if you have, you have service, you send a text, and it bounces from, wherever, a server, and it gets relayed, right, to the person to whom you're sending it. So it's instant connectivity, instant messaging, right? You're able to send messages, and think about the Remind app, right? You all can send me messages, send each other messages, right? And so these are some of the things that these characteristics of social age. What we're dealing with more specifically right now is this Web 2.0. And I'm going to say more about that because we're going to get to another section where we have to talk about that. What's wrong, Mama? Tired? Go lay down. Sorry, I'm trying to send my 4-year-old. So here's some comparisons between the user 1.0 and the user 2.0. The user 1.0 passively reads and searches for content. So that person goes and gets on Google, and they just do research. They find stuff, they search for content. User 2.0 actively creates and shares content. So they don't just go looking for content, but they develop content. They make whatever it is that's also going on the web. So they look for content, but they also create content. User 1.0 depends on a content creator and does not express his or her own opinion. User 2.0 can express opinions and even change the content presented. User 1.0 gets the web as is, right? Whatever you find, whatever's there is there. But user 2.0 knows how to customize web pages and content. And so let me just stop here for a second. And this is something that you all, I think, need to understand. Just as many of you are getting used to the web and having to be online for classes and trying to work and figure out Blackboard as a learning management system, please know that there are some of your professors, or perhaps many of them, who are doing the same thing. Many people, including myself, really didn't use Blackboard very much until the pandemic, right? I mean, I used it, but I didn't do as much with it as I'm doing now. And so even though they did help us and they gave us some training, and they even gave us a template, the course that we have as it is, I had to build that out myself, right? They didn't do that. They create a shell, but I had to build the course out myself. And so for some people, that's very intimidating and it can be very frustrating, right? Think about yourself. You can be very intimidated and frustrated with working in Blackboard, as a learning management system, especially if you didn't go through the orientation to kind of orient yourself. But imagine if you had to turn around and build out the whole course, right? And so that's what we had to do. That's what I did for this class. So everything that you see in your course for business communication, I put it there. I developed it, I organized it, I structured how it would look. I did all of that, right? BMCC didn't do that. And so for many professors who are only one user 1.0, they only deal with static information, having to create and develop can be very intimidating. And they're not native to it. So it takes a lot for them to wrap their brains around. Okay. So just wanted to share that part with you, that many of your instructors are also learning, right, as we go, and becoming a 2.0 user, or user 2.0. I have definitely become that, right? My website is one in which I did, right? I put it together. I had a template. There are things that make it easier. So I'm not fearful of it, but it does take time. And so that's why some of you think, oh, you just text me and then poof, 30 seconds later, something should be fixed. And that's not really quite.
Hello?
Hello.
Professor?
Must be her AirPods again.
Probably.
I think she got disconnected.
Can anybody hear the professor?
Uh,
Yeah, nah, I don't hear the professor either, bro. Yeah, man. She said she was gonna take a break at like 2:50 though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was
40,
like, is she taking
2:50.
it now?
Nah, I think she would have told us if she was. She probably just disconnected or some shit, but I don't know if we should leave and then try to join back or some shit.
No, I'm gonna stay till 2:50.
Yeah, I think it's 2:50. Look at me both and shit.
To be honest, yeah, I'm old. That's true.
Nigga trying to you never smoked weed? That's the fire though.
So I don't know how that happened, but nevertheless, let me. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna mute myself now, and I'm gonna put this.
Are we returning to class or what's going on right now? If anybody knows?
I have no idea. I thought my screen was frozen.
Yeah, me too. I was like, all right, everybody was silent for 30 minutes. Maybe I should say something to just double check.
I thought she was gonna be back by 2:55.
She said she's gonna make a break, but it's
All right.
She didn't announce the break though. She just kind of cut off and then that was it.
yeah.
Well, let's wait, I guess.
I don't know what's going on.
Just watch a movie in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm just doing my other work right now, so. All right. Just gonna do my hair.
We can hear you, Professor.
Hey, we back in action though. You see her.
We can't hear you, Professor.
We can hear you.
Oh, so how come nobody dropped anything in the chat? See? Grown folks, we having a difficulty following directions. All right, I'm going back to sharing my screen. Let me finish this. And I left it up. I said, you all were supposed to go find one Web 2.0 communication tool. Okay. All right, here we go. Benefits and challenges of social media in the workplace. So I'm going to talk through this. Benefits of social media. So the first one there is team communication and collaboration. I mean, that seems rather obvious, right? This is the benefit of for the company, right? The teams get to communicate and collaborate with one another. There is succession planning. If the word succession is not in your vocabulary, it is a good one to go and look up. There's recruitment and onboarding. There are platforms that do recruitment and onboarding. And if you've heard of Dusabo, for example, it allows for onboarding of clients. So these are different ways that social media and different type of software can aid a company in doing recruitment and onboarding. You can share ideas and knowledge management. For example, if you're on Facebook, sometimes you can see that there are different project management type of apps and programs that help to divide work and put due dates and things like that. There's skills development and training. Many companies will have certain types of training that you go through, and that a lot of times it is completely online or in conjunction with a social media platform or or some type of social media platform. Interfacing with customers, suppliers, and partners. So, different companies will have Facebook pages, Instagram pages, and those are just two examples, right? They can get on and interact with customers and suppliers and partners. There's decreased time to market for new products and services. So in other words, social media and various types of platforms enable companies to get their products and services out, right, to the public in a decreased amount of time. So there's more innovation, creative, effective, and profitable approaches to work problems through the use of social media in the workplace. And then there's also less time and fewer resources needed for business travel. And of course, even before the pandemic, right? Now people don't have to get on a plane and go to the other side of the world to sit down and have FaceTime with people, because there are a lot of other platforms that allow for connectivity. So let's say, for instance, the $5,000 it could have taken to send an executive across the world and put them up in a hotel and pay for their meals and all of those kinds of things. Now, it only costs perhaps half. It's only $2,500 because now you have an app for that, so to speak, right? It only costs now your Wi-Fi network and perhaps, a computer, whatever the case is. But the resources are considerably less and it doesn't require as much time. And in the US, at least, or in the developed world, we like to say that time is money. And so to say that it costs less of it costs less time and fewer resources, financial resources, to get certain types of business things done is good. For business professionals, it's also beneficial. It allows them to build professional networks within their company and also with other people who are outside of their company. That's the internal and external, right? It also allows business expertise and knowledge to be more rapidly shared. Okay, somebody needs to mute themselves, please. Mute, because I hear the static. Okay, so let me stop my screen because I have to now find who does not have a red mic. Karina, mute yourself, dear.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see his number.
Okay, so hold on one second. Let me just see something, make sure I didn't. Okay. Okay, so access business expertise and knowledge more rapidly. So yes, you're able to access different personnel and different people, expertise and knowledge more rapidly. You're able to share that as well as have access to that more rapidly with social media. Again, that's why they have different groups. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I talked about instructional design. And so, I'm able to see and network with people who are working in instructional design, who have experience in that. And so, if you join a professional organization, or you are on Facebook and there's a group for that, or you create a group for people who are in a particular industry or field, you get to have access to people who have more expertise than you, or just as much. And then there's the sharing again of knowledge and of resources. And then again, it enhances camaraderie. That's a great word to have in your vocabulary, camaraderie. You can go and look that up with peers. So with other people who are similar in terms of professional placement and goals, it gets to enhance that. But like with all things, there are benefits, but there are also some challenges, right, to social media in the workplace. And I'll talk about the things that I've circled, but all of these things, I'm going to talk through all of these. So lack of adoption and penetration. So what does that refer to? That refers to the fact that companies can, let's say they want to utilize a platform, and people have to be trained on it. It may seem complicated. And so what ends up happening is people don't use it, right? So they stick with email because it's simple, it's easy, it's a traditional tool. They know how it works. Another platform just might not, people just were like, I'm not going to use it because it's too hard. And so when a company spends money and time and resources to utilize a particular tool, and people refuse to use it, it's lack of adoption, right? And penetration. So people end up using the older tool because it's what's comfortable, it's what they know, and the newer tool is much more difficult and much more challenging, and they can't hang on. Oftentimes then that's a lack of permanence, right? They don't, or people use it, they like it, but then if for some reason it fizzles out. So I'll give you a perfect example. I think we talked about it in 2 modules ago when we looked at module 7. And I think I might have mentioned, or it might have been in the slides, Prezi, right? PowerPoint is what we all know. Most of us know PowerPoint. But Prezi for a moment was hot. But and some people still use Prezi, but it's not as well known and well utilized because it's a much more complicated tool. So the other thing is that there could be a confusion over which communication channels to use. People get frustrated. Well, should I just use email or should I use this particular platform? Or they use one platform for certain things and then they use another platform for other things. And then, the goal though is the company, they're trying to have everyone utilize particularly one particular channel and not multiple. Social media, as we all know, can cause distraction from work because people too much socializing, right? There's also a lack of control of information provided externally and internally. Well, what does that mean? That means that picture, let me go back to that picture in the beginning. This right here, this one right here. With all of these people sharing information, there's really no way to regulate or control it, right? Information is just being shared everywhere, right? You got information, you got information, you got information, everybody got information, right? It's just being shared. There's no way to really regulate or control it. And that is oftentimes what people are afraid of, especially right now. Because it can be tracked. No, it can be tracked, but it's hard to control, even if it can be tracked. All right, so let me get back to that other page. So so there's a lack of control, right? Internally and externally. There's a lack of systems for rewarding networked and team communication and collaboration. So, in addition to not being able to control how information is shared internally and externally, or externally and internally, there's also a lack of there's no system to really reward people who are utilizing the communication channel in the way that it should be. So there's no way to highlight or to honor the people who are doing sort of what it is that they're supposed to do. And that's just for the company. These are challenges and risks for the company. For business professionals, this first one is really huge. There's a lack of boundaries between professional and private lives. There is a blurred line now, right? Like Pharrell and what's his name sing, blurred lines, right? There are really blurred lines, because you do have to be mindful about what you post on social media, right? You do have to be mindful. Because if you are, a representative of your company, which you are by virtue of being an employee, regardless of how high or low on the totem pole you are, people are going to make decisions about you and your company based off what you post. Okay? So I'll give you a perfect example. I don't, but if I posted pictures or made statements that were contrary to, let's say, for instance, my place of employment, right, with BMCC, or I spoke out against, please know at some point somebody's going to catch that, right? Maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow, but some point, right? Or if I posted pictures of myself in a way that was not in compromising situations, that at some point could come to bear on BMCC. And BMCC, in wanting to distance themselves from somebody who operates in that way, would without hesitation let someone go or let me go, right? And that's the thing. That's the reason why there's a lack of, with social media, while it's really great, it's a lack of boundaries. Because you can't just post what you want. And this is a word of advice and a word of caution to you all. You cannot just post what you want. You should not post what you want. Well, this is a free country. Yeah, but with freedom comes responsibility. So some of you might need to go and scrub your social media. If you have a drink and you are having a good time and you are on vacation and it does not look sort of, if your eyes are bloodshot red, don't post the picture. Don't. If you are walking around in a swimsuit or, at the beach or whatever, don't give us a full view. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just being very upfront and honest with you. You want to make sure that your reputation is above reproach. And you have to know that moving forward, especially in the time frame and where we are right now as a society, any type of corporate entity, if you go to work for some corporate, please know that they're going to look at your social media. Just expect that, right? Expect that. And even if they don't, please don't think that at some point during your tenure there that no one will go look. Somebody still might go look, even after you've been there for a year. Well, it shouldn't matter. No, because they're not going to have, the company is not going to allow it to come back on them. They'll get rid of you first. So social media is great, It allows for great productivity, it allows for great collaboration, but there is some challenge to the business professional. And one of the main huge ones is that it creates a lack of boundaries between the professional and private life. Your private life then is up for discussion to a certain degree, right? And it's based off sort of what you post and allow to be public. Oftentimes, it can also result in lower productivity due to multitasking. We all have multitasked or attempted to multitask at different times. And so, long story short, if we're not careful, if we're not on point with stuff, we are, you can, you'll be, you don't always produce what you desire to because you're multitasking. Okay. Excessive opportunism and self-promotion. And so social media does allow for people to be opportunists, to be about getting opportunities for themselves, which may go beyond their role and what they're supposed to be doing at this particular, at that particular moment. Meaning, in other words, they're not putting forward the company's objectives. They have their own. Okay. And so, that's like, the person who has a side hustle, and instead of doing company business, they're doing side hustle stuff and trying to make it, and that's just an example. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be that, but I'm just saying excessive opportunism and self-promotion are definitely some of the risks, for business professionals with, social media, that being a challenge of social media. And then, of course, mistakes and incompetence now can be broadcasted easily. Okay. And it's to much larger audiences. People see it. And so that's one of the other huge things about social media in the workplace. This is your digital footprint is huge. If you don't know the term digital footprint, I invite you to go and look it up and to check it and to see it, and to really sort of just, start to consider your own digital footprint. I invited my last class to go Google yourself and see what comes up. Okay. If you don't find much, that might be a good thing. Okay, that might be a good thing. Notice I'm using that language. I said it might be a good thing. If you find yourself, what is it that you're finding? Is it positive? Is it good? Is it professional? Is it something that you would want a prospective employer to find?
I have a question.
Yes.
So in the social age, what if do you believe that in the future we're going to be forced to use social media in terms of like for business purposes, like promoting the business or something like that, or communicating with other types of people that are within the same field as us?
Well, I mean, it's not so much as if you're being forced right now. I mean, if you are a business and you're not on social media, doing the service, you're working harder. So it's not about it, you should be on social media if you are a business, and particularly right now. Now, there's some people who operate and have a base where they don't really use social media that much. But you have to look at what industry that they're in, and you have to look at the history, right? And some smaller businesses might work well that way. But by and large, many businesses have some form of social media participation because they just have to. I mean, you're able to reach consumers and increase your demand for what it is that you offer by using social media for your business communication, alerting people to new products and services, getting the word out. And remember, there are benefits, right? These are some benefits. You can get interface with customers, right? And suppliers and partners a lot sooner. You can decrease your time to market for new products. And if you are just beginning as an entrepreneur during this time, this is something that you definitely want to do, right? That's how you're going to make your money. Going out and handing out flyers or putting them on people's car in your neighborhood, that used to work, right? That might have worked before. It's just archaic now. Okay. It's just very archaic now. You're not going to have people reach out to you that much. They're more than likely going to find you online. And if they can't find you online, then that's money that you leave pretty much on the table. So it's not about so much as being forced. I mean, if you want to use that language, people have already been forced, right? And you still have a choice to use it or not, but you just have to understand that there are repercussions for using it and there are repercussions for not using it. The repercussions for using it is that you do have to be mindful that there are challenges and you have to be intentional and you can't be lackadaisical. It doesn't mean that you can't take a break. It doesn't mean that you cannot chill, but you have to be on it because it's your business. But, it also means you need to be ready, right? You need to be ready to step up and do the work of being an entrepreneur, of being somebody who's in business, of being on social media, and the responsibility that comes with that. That means your other profiles, whatever other places on social media you might be, need to reflect a certain type of image. Because if not, so in academia, they were saying all you have is your reputation, right? Once you ruin your reputation, you ruin your credibility. Okay. So your being on social media is one way that businesses, especially small businesses, help to develop their credibility. It establishes them. They're visible. They can be seen. If no one can see you, then you can't get mad that nobody comes to you. They don't even know you exist. So we're past whether or not we're being forced. It's if either you're going to participate or you're not. Okay, so it's not about being forced. It's really just making a decision that this is where we are right now, and either I'm going to participate in this or I'm not. Like I said, although there are lots of families, and perhaps you might know or perhaps be part of a family that's struggling, but please know that there are lots of people who are still making money right now in these, and I'm going to be speaking the vernacular for a second, in these internet streets. Okay, people are still making money. While there are lots of people out of work, while there are lots of people standing on food lines and all that stuff like that, and like I said, you may know some of those people, you might even be that, but don't think that there's nobody making money. There are. And a lot of times they're using these social media channels to get the word out. But again, with freedom comes responsibility. So it's about managing your image in this space. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So one of the things that you have to learn is to learn how to organize your dashboard. All right, to control your communication and information flow. If you are on Facebook, it has a dashboard. If you are on Instagram, it has a dashboard. If you are on Twitter, it has a dashboard. Do these all dashboards look the same? No. They have nuances. They don't all do the same things, but they do have a dashboard. The better you learn how the dashboard works, the better you're able to control the communication that you have with people and people have with you, and the better you're able to control the information, the feeds you follow, et cetera, and use it to the best of your ability. Does that take time to do? Yes, it does. I know how to use Instagram. I use Instagram, but I would not call myself an expert yet because I'm still studying and learning things, but it doesn't mean that you can't participate. Okay. You want to create and complete a professional profile. You're welcome to go. Oh, I mean, I do have it on my, I am on, this is me on Instagram. And you can just look at my feed as an example, right? and check out my feed. I think that is something, and consider how your feed, if you have an Instagram profile, what that feed looks like. So you want to create a complete and professional profile. You want to use blogs and status updates for team communication. Use shared files to collaborate. Google Docs is one of the ways that you can do that. That's just an example. Solve problems with discussion forums. If time is on your side, okay? If time is not on your side, so if time is on your side, that means you have 6 months, 12 months, you have over 90 days to do something. Then you have time to sort of utilize a discussion forum. But if you've got 90 days, 3 months or less, have a phone conference, have a video conference. Don't do a discussion forum, because time is of the essence. And then there are other social media tools that you can utilize. As I stated before, all software systems, social software systems, contain a dashboard. That's your front page where you log in. It operates as your communication and information hub. And most of the time you can customize it and display the features that most interest you. Again, it takes time to learn it. Does it take forever? No. Can you still kind of participate in that particular social software system? Yes. But the more time you spend learning about it, the better you will be able to use it, right? That's why you went through a training, right? Orientation for Blackboard, so that you can operate your communication, so that you can communicate and deal with the information that comes through there. So blogs, are like a diary or a journal of some kind. They're arranged chronologically. I can't say that I've seen. Usually, this will be done internally, right? So a corporation is not going to have necessarily an external. Well, no, they will probably have an external blog, but it will be very tempered, meaning there's usually a specific kinds of communication that goes out there, or that goes up there. But there's also there could be internal blogs, right, for people to read updates and newsletters or things that the company wants employees to be aware of. There are also microblogs, okay? And they give status updates. Facebook is one of those. Instagram is one of those. Short comments, contain a few sentences. And it's great for just broadcasting quick announcements. Again, blogs and microblogs, a lot of times, although Facebook is an example of a microblog, your company or the company that you work for, if they use blogs and microblogs, a lot of times they'll have something that's internal, meaning it's not something that actually can be seen outside of, unless they have a Facebook page, and then they're going to restrict who can see it, who can use it, et cetera, et cetera. There are also team blogs. They're typically organized around formal work teams, and project blogs organized around particular projects that generally involve temporary teams. Your book has some examples of that. So here's one, just, show you, it looks pretty much like almost like a Facebook post. But, again, this kind of information is probably not going to be accessible to your general public. It's going to be something that's internal, that only people that are part of a company might be able to see. And then again, here's a blog used for internal announcements. Again, notice that it's used for internal announcements. This is not something that people see out in the general public, but it's usually within the company that you belong to. And this is stuff you've seen. So you're going to use shared files to collaborate. And this was something that we looked at as one of the features, right? One of the features of, I just lost my train of thought for a second, but one of the features of what was the definition? Here it is. Of the social age, right? The platforms, file uploading. That's where we are now. That's what we're talking about right now, file uploading. So you want to discuss with your team members and colleagues what the protocol should be for sharing and co-editing files. A lot of times the company is going to have a protocol already in place. You should check to see if there is a protocol already in place. And then if not, then with your team members, you establish one, you write one, right? You organize your files by project. If again, there's no protocol in place, a lot of times there will be some type of protocol in place. It might be loose and it might be very strict, but you want to check. You want to manage permissions. Who has the ability to go in and look at these files and edit? Looking at the file is a different permission than editing the file, right? So somebody might be able to just look at the file. Somebody might be able to look at the file and edit the file. So you need to manage those kinds of permissions. Then you need to add comments constructively and carefully. Read your colleagues' comments. Now I can blast y'all for not doing what it is that y'all was supposed to do, even though somebody was trying to mention that I've been gone for 30 minutes, but nobody did what it was that you're supposed to do in that time, right? Which was locate a web 2.0, a web 2.0 tool. So when you have files, you can't scan them. You need to just take your time to read it and see what people are saying. You all are in groups trying to develop a group written report. If you are working from a document like a Google Doc so people can see edits in real time, take the time. Make sure you're taking time to read the edits. Make sure you're reading the feedback that people are offering and making statements about. Okay? And then likewise, when you are making comments, make sure your comments are clear. Don't assume people automatically know what you're talking about. I'm only going to say the word avoid once. So these are some problems with discussion forums, right? You want to solve problems with discussion forums. But like I said before, these discussion forums should only be when you have time. When you have more than 3 months, to plan or develop or working on a project, then you can do discussion forums. If you've got less than 90 days, don't do a discussion forum. Schedule a phone conference, schedule a video conference. But if you are using discussion forums, please avoid leading posts. In other words, setting people up for what it is that you really want to talk about. Avoid, ignoring competing points of view. Deal with the fact that somebody else has another point of view. Don't try to ignore it. Watch your language. This is the only way we can do it. No, it's not. Okay, that's strong, rigid language. Complaining, it's not the time for you to complain. Blaming, it's not the space for you to blame. Off-topic points, not the time for you to go through that. Excessively short or lengthy posts. Sarcasm. You really want to be about your business when you get into a discussion when you get into a post on discussion forums or having a discussion in a forum. You want to be very intentional about your language and what you're saying and what you're talking about, and you want to get to your point. All of these things here are ways to jeopardize your job, to jeopardize team morale. Okay, all of those things. So these are some strategies that you can use to make your forums more effective. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I'm about to. Sorry, I'm just wanted to double check the other set of notes I had. Okay, I think we're coming. Yeah, we're coming to the end. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna push ahead. So I'm gonna just kind of explicate a few things, and then I'm going to move on because I'm watching the time and we're way past where I wanted us to be, but that's partly my fault. So you want to read your peers' comments completely and carefully. You want to make sure the purpose of the forum is clear. You want to use flexible, open, and inviting language. Word choice matters. That's why I'm saying you should have a dictionary and a thesaurus. Build on the ideas of others and pose questions. Show appreciation for your teammates and their ideas. Participate often. Meet in real time for touchy points. Summarize and, as appropriate, identify next steps. This is important. If you don't take time to identify the next steps, you can end up getting stuck and never moving forward. What are the next steps? Somebody should always in your group say, what are the next steps? What do we do next? Okay, what have we accomplished thus far and what do we do next? Talk with your team about ways to make forums help your decision making and coordination. Okay. I'm not going to spend time on this. This is something that you can read, but figure 8.7 in your book. Please read that. That'll be a great, effective example of forum conversation. When you're writing posts for your organization, you have to understand that the goal of blogs is effective public relations or PR. And your goal is to build relationships, right? With employees, with customers, with communities, with people in the media, and any other stakeholders there might be. All right. And as you're building these relationships, you improve upon your reputation or credibility. There goes that word again. It all comes back to this: credibility. Okay. Your reputation, or the corporate reputation. I'm gonna read this out loud because this is a good one. This is something that you need to, if you're not taking notes, this is a good time to pick up your pen or your pencil and write this one down. It's in your book, but for those of you who still don't have a book, and I know there's some of y'all who still don't have a book, write this one down. Corporate reputation or your personal reputation is an intangible asset. Intangible, meaning that you cannot touch it, that allows the company to better manage the expectation and needs of its various stakeholders, creating differentiation and barriers vis-a-vis its competitors. So, to make this more simply, to put it more simply, one's reputation, your personal reputation or the corporate reputation, it's first of all, it's an intangible asset. Okay. But it allows you to manage the expectations and needs of others. And it helps to set you apart, right, from other people. Set you apart from one company versus another company, you versus somebody else, right? Your reputation. For stakeholders, the intellectual, emotional, and behavioral response as to whether or not the communications and actions of an organization resonate with their needs and interests. So it's an intangible asset, allows for the management of expectations and needs. You show, or you're able to show what's different, right, about you or about your company or about your corporate organization versus another or its competitors. And it helps stakeholders to make a decision about whether or not the communications and the actions of an organization based on its reputation resonate with their needs and interests. Your reputation allows for your customers and your clients and those people who might work with you make a decision about you. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So it's an asset for the company, or hopefully it is an asset for the company. But but it allows people who might work with you, it gives them a way to distinguish you from others. So for example, you go into the grocery store, some of us might eat cold cereal. The whole aisle, one side of the aisle, your grocery store, right, is filled with different brands of cold cereal. Well, the reputation of Pops or Fruit Loops or Apple Jacks or Honey Nut Cheerios, they're all, right, in the business of being what we might call cold cereal that you eat with cold milk. But they each have a reputation and a brand, right? And so that's how we distinguish. It's in part, does Apple Jacks resonate with what I like and what I need, or I feel I need? And that's what's going on. Okay, coming down to it. So go check out Figure 8.8. It's a press release style blog post. This is something that can be seen, right, by companies, right, that do have that. There are companies that do have blog posts, and this is a good example. There's also an op-ed style blog post. It's another great example to read. Now, let me just say this: if you all don't go and read these things, you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay, it's important that you read these. So some guidelines for using social media in the workplace. So be an active contributor and join communities. Read, listen, and learn. Focus on content. Make your content accessible. Make your messages authentic and friendly. Be responsive and help others. Respect boundaries and avoid oversharing. So managing your online reputation. Even if you have a job, you still have, a reputation, online vis-a-vis your different profiles that you have, depending on how engaged you are online. But your personal brand is a unique set of professional skills and attributes that others associate with you. And that's something that you all should begin to think about much more deeply, about what are your professional skills and attributes that people associate with you. So what do people come to you for? Do people come to you for advice? Do people come to you for help with finding certain things or locating or fixing, right? And then you need to begin to craft your social media profiles around that. And even at your job, if you have social media or if you have some platforms for which you do work through, you also want to begin to figure out how you might craft that so there's some level of consistency across platforms about your personal brand, those unique set of skills that you have. I'm just going to touch upon one or two of these so that you can see what it looks like. But again, this is a great one for you to go spend some time. So positive meta messages. I'm a good listener. That's competence, right? So sought after reputations, communicative, good personal skills. You could always count on me. I'm just using different ones. Sought after reputation, committed. Notice competence, caring, and character. Here goes another one. I'm a fun person, fun loving, exciting. Now, granted, you don't necessarily need to have that as on your, profile, but just showing you that those are the words that these meta messages translate to. Okay. So these are the meta messages, and this is what it translates to. This is these are the words, right, that you might find in someone's profile. Again, and these all go through competence, caring, and character. So you need to go spend some time going through this and looking at this. And again, these are some words to add to your vocabulary, especially here: team-oriented, collaborative, integrity, moral, ethical, fair, right? And these are character and caring, okay? Competence, skilled, competent, dependable, okay? These are great words to incorporate into how you might describe yourself, but then also, you know, what you might put into a profile online. I have certain abilities: talented, skilled, capable. I have certain social values and priorities. I'm looking at this one: activist, cause driven, passionate. Okay. These are just great words. Again, here are more. We haven't talked about it a whole lot. I think it was in one of your modules, in one of the videos that talked about ethics. Well, no, I think we did talk about ethics maybe in module 1 or 2. But you know, you want to also use social media ethically, right? So much more than your online reputation is at stake with social media use. Okay. The reputation and performance of your company is at stake as well. So again, I've said this already, but your online reputation is not the only thing that's at stake. It's the reputation and performance of your company as well. So if you are working for someone, just know what you do on social media, whether it is through the platforms they supply or your own, or the platforms that you are a part of that are personal, where you have a personal page, you are still being associated with your company. So the line between what you believe is private use of social media and your role as an employee can be murky because your private actions can damage your employer and hurt your career. If you don't take anything else from today, I need you to understand this. This will be one of the most important things, if you haven't learned it already, to learn, like right now. The line between what you believe is private use of social media and your role as an employee can be murky because your private actions can damage your employer and hurt your career. That's the truth, Ruth. Nothing else can be said. And it doesn't even matter if it was your intent or not. Okay? So if you don't take away anything else, you need to understand that. And that is both the wonderful thing about social media and the challenging thing about social media. Your private actions can damage your employer and hurt your career. And what that means is hurt your career is they're going to get rid of you, right? You become a liability. You cost too much. And we've seen that happen, right? People who make certain statements or do certain things, certain actions, they've paid a price, right, by losing their jobs. So your private actions can damage your employer, and that's on social media and also without. So we talked about characteristics of the social age. We talked about communication with blogs and wikis and forums, and you should also check out some of those charts. Blogs for external communication, there are examples in your book, and you should check out some of those charts. We talked about a little bit about online reputation and also about the ethical use of social media. Google yourself. Go Google yourself. That's a great project. I think I might use that for next semester. Is have people go Google themselves and see what they find. I think that's where we are right now.
Professor.
Yes, ma'am.
I did that in my SBE 100 class about last semester.
What'd you find?
Wow, that's crazy. What? It's crazy.
Well, it was very different.
Hold on one second. Karina, can you mute yourself because somebody's talking?
Sorry.
Actually like I had 2 Facebooks. I had one for middle school, like 8th grade. I don't know what the hell I was doing. And then I had one when I started, I believe, sophomore year. So they were both completely very different. And, I had to make sure I deleted and, reconstructed my image there.
Yeah, that's good.
It was a fun project, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, and luckily, I mean, people can be forgiving, especially when they see age, they'll go, oh, they can tell somebody's young. But, at this point, all of you, you're at an age of accountability. And so what you post, right, becomes extremely important. And not to say what you post in middle school is not important, but hopefully, people are supervising to some degree what's being posted. But at this point, you all are considered adults. You're accountable for what you post or what you allow other people to post. So watch for, folks taking pictures of you, even family members and friends, be mindful of that, because those things are important as well. But that's good. I'm glad that was a project, because I think that it's something that's really, really important. But I think it would be good for people to just be able to do that, even just a short assignment, just to kind of say, well, what they found, or what were their top 3 results, and to perhaps even use different search engines, right? Because Google uses a different algorithm than Safari and Firefox, and it would be good to see across different search engines what comes up. So that's module 9.